All right, good morning, everybody. Looks like it's 9:30, so let's get this meeting started.
Good morning, Marco.
Marie, if you're here, right? Yes. Can you were going to just give a brief introduction on the parliamentary rules of the meeting, correct? Marie? 9:30, so.
Yes, I do hear you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. Okay, so I thought you were going to give a parliamentary rule introduction.
Oh yeah, definitely just some housekeeping. I just want if I'm also on the other line and I'm echoing. Hold on just a minute, please.
We can start with roll call and then we move to that.
Definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Marco, just before you begin, could everyone that are voting members please put your district in front of your name? So that would be helpful too, so we can move a little faster. Thank you.
District 1, Marco Botticelli me, present. Leonard, I see you.
Here.
How you doing? District 2.
Hi, Marco.
Hi. Jimmy, you just spoke. District 3, you're here. Hello. And Rashida,
Here. Good morning. Hey, Marco. Hey,
how
everyone.
you doing?
Good, thank you.
That's Rashida, District 4. District 5, Aisha.
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? Brittany from District 6, are you here already? Maybe not yet. Shima, District 7? No. Angela, District 8?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. District 9 is Robert or maybe Drizel here? Neither one, okay. District 10, Maria? Not yet. Miriam from 11? No. Doris from 12 actually sent an email saying she has a conflict. She might be able to join us later. Celia, District 13. No, she's not here yet. Marisa, 14.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Katia, District 15. Not here. Marta from 16. Not yet. Veronica, District 17.
I'm here.
Hi, how
morning.
are you doing? Good
I am
morning.
fine, and you? Good morning.
Luvenia from 18. She's actually a new rep.
I am-
that votes. Oh, how are you doing? Lulu, I
Yes.
guess that's what you want to be called.
Yeah. Well, yes, Miss Batista, I'm here.
Right. Nice to meet you. Just
Well,
elected
nice to meet
to
everyone.
represent
District was
District
that, Mr.
18.
Chair? Which district?
18.
District 18.
Okay. Thank you.
Sherry from 19. Not yet. Janine, 20. No, I see Randy. How are you doing? District 21.
Morning, Marco.
Sabina, 22.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Josh from District 23. You're also your first meeting probably, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Matti from 24. Not yet. And Frances also said that maybe she wasn't going to be able to make it. And in fact, she's now here from 26, from 25. Cecilia from 26. Not yet. Lisa, District 27.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Lisa. Jessica, 28.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. District 29, Kamaria.
Present, I'm here.
Hi.
Hello.
And Anna from District 30. Not yet. Jazzy, District 32.
Present, good morning, Marco.
Good morning. There is no representative for 31 as at the moment. So that's why I skipped it, by the way. 75, Andrea.
I'm here.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, good morning.
Cecilia from Brooklyn High Schools.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Lourdes, Bronx High Schools.
Here.
And Jackie from Manhattan High Schools.
Good morning again. How's
Good
everyone?
morning. Shirley, I saw you before. Yeah, there you are. Queens High School.
morning.
Good morning. And Aaron, Staten Island High School. It's not here yet, but he should join because we just changed email earlier.
Oh, point of order, Marco. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know that I've been hearing from people that the live stream link is not posted on the website. So they're trying to get into the meeting, but they can't. Could you just verify that? I'm just, this is what they're telling me. I just went to the website and it doesn't appear to be up, at least on the page that I went to.
Yeah, let me just, it's through.
Well, on. Randy, are you directly on the live stream?
Yes, I'm on.
Because I am on there too.
I'll post
The link isn't working,
Is-
but you could go directly through YouTube and where you're on, you could see you live.
No, it's updated now. It's updated now. It was a caching issue. It was not showing
Okay,
up.
thank you.
Okay, so that's solved. So Marie, do you want to go now?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Good morning, all, and welcome to our February's CPAC General Membership Meeting. Well, welcome not just our old members, but also new members who have joined us today. Just a few housekeeping and to set the order of the agenda, but also for how we conduct business. So in order to make sure that our CPAC meetings are ran smoothly, fairly, and in compliance with our CPAC bylaws, we are asking you to respect the following procedures and adaptations. First, to not speak until recognized by the chair and our co-chairs, who will be assisted in managing and monitoring the meeting by our parliamentarian, and that's me. Please limit your comments or questions to 2 minutes to ensure that maximum participation by the greatest number of representatives present. And just remember that the other speakers are privileged to speak as per our bylaws. First is the executive board. Second is our voting members. And third is our non-voting members and members of the general public, if there is time, and if they are recognized by the co-chairs. So we want to make sure that we hear from as many people as possible during the course of the meetings. So therefore, there'll be times when we do not call on someone who had just spoken. And this is an attempt at fairness. And if we were in person, all voting members has first seating preference at the table, but we're not. And this is the reason why our voting members are directly on Zoom, and members of the general public or non-voting members are directly into the live stream so that they can view and still participate into our meetings. So we welcome everyone, and that's what we have a great meeting. And we also hope that you take away a lot of information, valuable information with you today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Marie. So we have a whole bunch of things we would like to vote on. All the members should have received the PDFs of this before. So let's start with the minutes. So anybody missed documents or something? We have minutes, and we have 2 more documents coming from the school committee. So let's start with the minutes. Let me put them on the screen, although you should have received them. Does anybody need more time to review them? Have not had the time to review them yet, or can we just either amend them if they are amendments, or just adopt them as they are?
Motion to approve them.
Okay. Any second?
Second, D4.
All right, we
Marco,
don't need to,
have to start the recording.
excuse me?
Start the recording.
The recording is on YouTube, Jimmy, don't worry. But yeah, I can have the other copy here as well. So
There was a comment, Mr. Chair, there was a
Yes.
comment about the minutes that the time of adjournment is missing.
yeah, we don't know what it was.
Okay.
If somebody know what time it was, we can amend them, but otherwise
6 hours,
we did not record the time.
We actually ended just 10 minutes before 2 p.m.
Okay, so I can adjourn that. I can modify that and put, so
Thank you.
150, right? 150, Marie, right?
Correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, I need to go to the doc though. Okay, so with that modification, let me find it. With that modification, adjourn at 1:50 p.m. Okay, so no other modification. We adopt the minutes. Correct? Yeah. Don't hear any. Now we also have 2 more documents. Hold on a second that I'm gonna pull them up. So we have 2 documents from the high school committee recommend that we approve. One of them is actually a letter that the high school committee wrote, and another one is actually something coming from the citywide council of high schools, and that the high school committee recommended that we might want to adopt it as well, or approve it as well. Let me just find the document so that I can share it.
Marco, which one you want to show first?
Okay, I got the citywide council of high school document. If you want to be prepared with the other one, you can share it right after that. So this is a resolution to expand access to internet for all. It's basically a resolution going to City Hall, or not City Hall, yeah, but to the mayor effectively, and requesting that internet access be expanded, in particularly in low-income neighborhood and areas. Do we have a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve citywide council on high schools resolution to expand access to internet access for all.
Second, District 2.
Okay, anybody against it? Any abstain? So I assume everybody else is in favor. Right? Good.
Yay.
Yeah, so this is passed. Jimmy, can you share the other document, or should I look for it? Great. So this is a document about translation, basically requesting that the DOE provide additional translations besides the translation that are already being mandated and provided.
Motion to approve letter on translation.
Second, District 2.
Anybody against it?
Second, 18.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I believe District 18 was.
Yeah, I said approve District
second.
18.
Hey, Jimmy, you should stop sharing the screen because, okay, we have the YouTube in it. Okay, so anybody against it? No, any abstain? No, so we're gonna assuming everybody else is in favor. Great, so
Yay.
we're done with this as well. And next item on the agenda, Jimmy will discuss some Title I information that we feel is important to share.
Okay. Good morning. As we know that all schools supposed to have a PAC, and at the same time, your expenditure, the 1%, you have to have your plan and everything ready by March 1st. And I will share my screen to show the time schedule. So I need to be able to share my screen, Marco.
Yeah, you're able to. You shared it before.
Okay.
Jimmy, do you want me maybe to share the screen with the document, and you just go on with the. I think we lost Jimmy. Maybe some technical issues. Okay. So I believe this is a document that Jimmy was planning on sharing, although looks like she might be having some technical difficulty. Let's see if she comes back. Okay. So maybe we're gonna find a little moment, I guess, later. Or Maria, I know you were working with her on this issue. Do you want to speak about it for a few minutes?
Yes, definitely, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Hopefully she's gonna be able to join back. Let me get that. That's the document that I had before, was the one that you wanted to be shared, right?
That's one of them, but we sort of made some changes.
Okay,
But
so do you want to
yeah,
share
so-
a different one, or this is fine?
This is fine. We can work
Okay.
from there. All right, so simply what Jimmy was mentioning earlier, as it is required under the Federal Rules Regulation, Title I, Part A, Section 1118 of the Federal Rules, Regulations and Guidelines, we simply wanted to urge the entire public school bodies to actually put their PACs in place, and reference to the Parent Advisory Council, which addresses Title I in terms of family engagement, family involvement, and so forth. So the timeline is really important in the sense that what we wanted to share is first to make sure that our PACs are in place, as well as the DPAC, but foremost, the Parent Advisory Councils have to be in place first. It is well known at this point, although we have been inquiring, how many of our New York City public schools have been able to establish their PACs, but also if it is established, the guidelines and also the timeline for doing what should have been in place have been done. So we thought that we could actually share the timeline, and with what Jimmy mentioned, as the budget modification deadline is coming up as of March 1st. So we would like to urge our public schools, and by the way, in New York City, altogether, about 90% of our schools are Title I school-wide programs. And a very small portion, maybe just about 10%, are targeted assistance. But we're not going to get into overall what Title I is and two type of Title I fundings and so forth, but simply to go over the timeline and some of the required activities that should have taken place, the time frame. So as of October 9th to November 16th, schools have to have finalized the CEP, which serve as a school-wide program plan for Title I SWP schools, which I just mentioned. And then the annual Title I, it is required under the ESSA, Title I, Part A, Section 1118, that an annual Title I parent meeting must take place conducted by the principal or designated staff member to inform the school that they are Title I school, that they're in receipt of Title I fundings, and also to inform them about the budget, the Title I allocations, and also to speak about the school parent compact, sharing that with them. And that should have been done by October 30th. We know with COVID, a lot of things have been set back and pushed back, and schools have been allowed and giving more leeway to get that done. But technically, the annual Title I parent meeting, if you are a Title I school, should have been conducted by your principal or designated staff member by October 30th. And then by October 31st, the principal or the designee facilitate the PA or PTA elections. Then November 6th, written notice sent to parents of the scheduled meeting date to establish the Title I PAC, an election of the Title I chairperson and alternate, including a call for parents interested in serving on the Title I PAC. So it is not selected, it is an election that takes place. And also, although the chairperson alternate is mentioned, schools can actually decide how many members of the PAC that they can have, whether they would like to have a recording secretary, treasurer, corresponding secretary, and so forth. But in order to have the PAC to function, you need to elect to have a chairperson and alternate chairperson. And there is no co-chair or so forth. Title I, it is the chairperson or alternate chairperson. And that was to be done by November the 6th. By November 20th, the principal hosts a meeting of parents to establish a Title I PAC. The PA, the PTA president, can facilitate the meeting to explain the role of the Title I PAC and conduct election of the chairperson and alternate. And just keep in mind, it is up to the individual schools to elect additional members to their PAC, because it is a council, so you can't have a council with just one person. So you will need additional members. but you will not be in violation of any law whatsoever if you choose to have more than the chairperson or the alternate chairperson. And by November 30th, the principal should have completed a survey attesting that they conducted the annual Title I parent meeting and identified the name of the Title I PAC chairperson and alternate. By December 4th, the Office of the First Deputy Chancellor, or FDC, sends a list of school Title I PAC chairpersons and alternates to superintendents to support the election of the Title I District Parent Advisory Council, DPAC, chairperson and alternate chairperson. And Section 4 for the timeline of district BCD implementation of required Title I parent and family engagement activities. And that was to be done by December 4th. And there is also allowable expenses under Title I, and we only have about 15 minutes to do this. It would not be shared. However, the sheets of presentation will be shared into our website so that you can have access to them. And this was to be done by December 4th. And OFDC, the office, that's Sharon Rancher's office, who is in charge of federal rules, policies, and regulations. By December 18th, school budget plan for the use of the 1% Title I parent involvement set aside, jointly developed by the school and Title I parents. So as Jimmy had mentioned earlier, of the overall 100% that a school gets, 1% is strictly set aside and allocated for the purpose of parent level activities and engagement. But with the expenditures, this budget plan has to be jointly developed by the Title I parents, the PAC, but also in conjunction with the SLT to make sure that this is in alignment with the CEP, the Comprehension Education Plan. So that's really important. Yes, you have the use of the 1%. However, this budget plan, how the expenditures will be spent, has to be jointly coordinated with the Title I parents. In other words, you will need to survey your parents to figure out how can you best serve them, what would they like to have, what are some of these activities. And this was actually being done by December 18th. The Title I targeted assistance schools have an opportunity to apply to become a school-wide program, school SWP, between January and February, between now, meaning that if you are targeted assistance CAS, and target assistance, by the way, is only a smaller portion of parents and students who are in receipt of the Title I fundings. It is not the entire school. Whereas with Title I SWP, it is the entire school body and the students as well as the parents that are in receipt and making use of the Title I fundings. Two separate things. But between January and February, schools have an opportunity to apply to put in an application to become a school-wide program. And by February 1st, which we're past that time, the Title I PAC and the SLT analyzes feedback received from Title I parents regarding the joint review and evaluation of the school's parent and family engagement policy and school parent compact, and incorporates any needed revision to improve the parent family engagement program and budget plan by February 1st.
Marie, we have like 30 more seconds. Maybe maybe we want to pick up one question if anybody has a question.
Yes, definitely. So it brings up to this portion while we're urging to get this done to establish your PAC is because that we want parents to be able to make good use of their 1% allocation because as March 1st is approaching, that would be the deadline for you to be able to do any modification to the budget. And it's not just with Title I, and that's with the overall school budgets, and principals do know that. So we are urging parents, if you have not established your PACs, to get it done. What if you have to do an expedited election and setting it up and getting it done? But also those who already did have a PAC, Title I elections, if you're in opposition, it is for 2 years. So you may not have to do an election, you will continue. Unless that position is vacated, then definitely election needs to be done. And that's just.
Okay, we actually have no time for questions. We are past the time. I see Daniel. I see Donald is right here with us.
Yes.
Donald, please introduce yourself. You know, we asked you to come here and explain the role you have as a first deputy chancellor in the DOE. You can please introduce yourself and take it over.
Well, thank you, Mr. Marco, and good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for having me this morning and for giving me the opportunity to address you, and also thank the Chancellor, who may or may not be on, I'm not sure, for giving me space within his advisory council to speak. For those of you that don't know me, I am Donald Conyers, presently occupying the role of First Deputy Chancellor, but I began my journey with the New York City Department of Education in 1968 when I enrolled in kindergarten class and have been a longtime New York City public school education student and then employee. Over the years, after graduating high school, and coming back from college, I've been a teacher, assistant principal, superintendent of community school district, as well as a high school superintendent, central administrator here at our central offices, and now First Deputy Chancellor. And essentially the role of the First Deputy Chancellor, the way that I operationalize it and see it and accept it, is that of a servant. So I'm a servant leader, essentially by design, making myself available to the fulfillment of the Chancellor's priorities, which really are around developing people, accelerating learning and instruction, and advancing equity, as well as partnering with communities, for which we really speak about parent leadership and other CBOs and other entities. So most of my life in the DOE is really built around codependency. And even as I was a leader of a principal of a school, a principal leader of a school for 13 years, it was always predicated upon my ability to create the interconnectedness and also the interrelationships that I've been able to foster. And I learned early on that no person is an island, and they cannot survive singularly. So I've prided myself on being a person that connects, that also is not the smartest person in the room, always a learner. And my role as First Deputy Chancellor is to imbue those kinds of values, is to also ensure that I provide leadership with and for others in the space for leadership without being insecure about it. I extend that strongly to parents. I have wonderful parent relationships that I've fostered over the years and have maintained. Strong relationships that I look to and I rely on, because parents' voice, parent experience, and parent information is critical to the work that we have to do within the office of the First Deputy Chancellor in our division. So we serve, really, as I indicate, to support the work that goes on in schools in what we will call the field. And we do that along with other divisional offices here at the Department of Education. However, in our division, we have executive superintendents, family leadership coordinators, family support coordinators, and in schools, there are parent coordinators, as well as any other person that is assigned to the wonderful role of supporting, advancing, and collaborating with parents. There are, like any other system, There are always imperfections. I'll be the first to tell you that I never present as if we have arrived, because we have not arrived. And I think one of the greatest assets that I think that I try to utilize is the truth in understanding where we are and showing openly our desire and our goal and movement toward improvement across all of our jurisdictional areas across throughout the city. I will say to you that there are things that are going on that really, I will note some things, if you allow me, Mr. Marco. Just some things, just to not to say that we've arrived, not to say that we're done. But in Queens North, for example, in the leadership there, they've created a how to support during times of change. These are parent workshops with Child Mind Institute to address really important things like grief, bereavement, and growing anxiety among children across Queens, as in a series of engagement sessions and workshops. And I think that is so critical. In the Bronx, the offices there have been collaborating with districts and community superintendents, the community education councils, to design parent workshops and resources that also support the social emotional needs of the community. And their workshops and resources address, again, depression, the unique challenges of single parents, grief, loss, social emotional learning at home, and other critical topics. We have our transfer schools, which fall under what we call the access schools corridor. They have the family leadership team meetings with family advisory council, which comprised of parents, guidance, and guardians, to discuss the updates from the DOE, to share resources, etc. In Brooklyn South, and I believe Ms. Gibson is part of this meeting today. They work with Ms. Gibson and as outlined in terms of the work that they're doing together to establish, I think, the NICSA that will give needed access to parents, which I really implore all parents to sign up if they don't have NICSA accounts, and because it's going to be so critically important as we now approach this season for being able to run and vote in the upcoming CEC elections. And the Brooklyn South has worked to establish systems of outreach and to provide updated information to the parents. Also in Brooklyn North, still in the borough of Brooklyn, they've organized and have family town hall events to encourage and support district-based outreach and information, etc. And in Manhattan, they also hold quarterly meetings with the executive superintendent, who is very much involved with CEC and high school presidents' councils, and to check in. All that to say, these are some of the bright points. They're not all the points, because at the same time, I am still dissatisfied with our caliber of remote learning instruction. I know that we've taken care of a lot of the social emotional learning aspects. We are making grounds on addressing the academic excellence that we need to, but I will never stand before you and suggest that we have arrived. Our division works hand in hand, and I'm proud to work with our Deputy Chancellor Adrienne Austin and the Office of Family and Community Empowerment within the division that she oversees. We work hand in glove, and in order to support the needs of parents at large, to ensure that parents have space, that parents are not just on paper an entity, but in fact that they are alive and active and able to contribute. I want to thank also people like Deb Dillingham, I see on the screen, who I had relationships with, Celia Green, and any of you that I have worked with. I think you understand who I am as a person. For those of you that don't know me, what you see is what you get. I am not about the title. It's more about the work and the success that comes as a result of our work together. I want to thank and welcome the new executive members from District 4, 21, and the high school in Queens, 3 members that have joined the council. And I'm sure that hopefully I'll get the ability at some point to have more time and more opportunities to share with you, learn from you as well. Parents, I hope that you've taken advantage of the school experience survey. I mean, this provides the department the additional insight and the opportunities to just look at ourselves. You know, I'm not ever going to be that person standing before you indicating that we can't be introspective as an agency. There's so many things, so many holes that we have. It's almost like Swiss cheese. But the objective here is to look at where we are, confront it, acknowledge it, and then make the difference. That is what I endeavor to do every day within our division on behalf of the entire agency, working with our chancellor and every other member, as well as parent. Parent leaders, your voice really matters to me. Sorry, someone's calling me. Spam, potential spam is what it reads. Your voice matters to me. Your actions matter. One of the things, and I just heard before I was given the ability to speak, was around the timeline for Title I. I am not satisfied with where we are in terms of the production and the activity with Title I as it relates to parents. Let me be the first to say that. That's not good enough, though. We have to do better. We have to ensure that we are utilizing the expertise that we have within our agency, without our agency, that we are able to create the kind of what I would call synergy that allows us to learn from one another, rely on one another. So we have like the committee of practitioners, which we call COPS, COP, and these are parents that give of their own time and have the expertise to be representatives of New York City at the state level as it relates to Title I. We owe it to them. Good morning, Mr. Shepard. I see you there. We owe it to them to collaborate, to not only collaborate, but to be better at delivery on our side. So if I'm supposed to get on here and come off as a perfect DOE, sorry, that's not who we are. That's not who I am. The most important thing for me is that I carry with me and always project my integrity. I'm not going to sell myself for a job or for anyone else. I am a person filled with integrity, and I desire to do the best we can do every day. So we are still growing as an agency. No matter how many years we've been in existence, there are new conditions. COVID has presented, everyone is now at ground zero. We've started all together all over again. No matter what we've celebrated in the past, we now have new challenges that we've been overcoming.
Gonna keep on what I got on for today and take my bathing suit and clothes for tomorrow.
Oops. Sorry, Donald, I muted you by mistake. I was trying to mute the other person that was making noise.
That's all right.
I apologize.
No, I was about to tell her to take her bathing suit. I'm with her. It's just cold out there. Yeah, I do tell corny jokes too, but you know what? What I want to bring to this job and continue to bring to this job is the realness of a person. I can't be some kind of figure that is not me. All I can be is me. And what I endeavor to continue doing is working on behalf of this agency to utilize my years of experience, from the classroom all the way through to the supervision of the superintendents and as a first deputy chancellor, which really will give me close to 38 years of getting it wrong, getting it right, making sure that I can remember, never forgetting the importance of every constituent within our universe of this DOE. Everyone to me matters in terms of their contribution. And I learn so much more from people that are able to speak to me directly, clearly, respectfully, always as we do, but I don't like the feigned activity and behavior. And with that, I'm going to yield, and I thank you, Mr. Marco, for the time. And I want to make sure that anyone that wants to know more from me, wants to hear more from me, you can contact me at First Deputy Chancellor at schools.nyc.gov. That email box is supervised, overseen by one of my executive assistants. I only have one of them, and it will certainly be the kind of communication that I will answer myself. I want you to know that I am at your service and still in a position in a learning posture. Even as I lead, I still am in a learning posture. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Donald. So I wanted to say that I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to work directly with you in any occasion, but any parent here and outside of here that has had that opportunity has talked great things about you.
Thank you.
And now I'm gonna open it up to the floor for questions. I see Jackie with her hand raised.
Good morning, Deputy Chancellor.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm blessed. Thank you. Doing very well.
I see your initials are DCDC. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. I've been hearing that. You know, I still have to put the garbage out at home. Doesn't matter. My wife, it doesn't matter. It could be LMNOP, garbage out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as you know and have advocated for, district leadership teams play a significant role in creating a structure for
Yes.
district-based decision-making and shaping the path to collaboration between superintendents, principals, parents, teachers, other school staff, and community partners. Unfortunately, DLTs were not included in the court case decision for school leadership teams to operate under open meeting law. My question is, where does DOE stand in efforts to have all DLTs operate under the open meeting law? Has there been conversations on your end with elected officials to have DLTs operate under OML? This is more so a citywide concern in efforts to empower the community and schools and district at the school and district levels.
Right. Well, thank you for that. I'm also learning how to answer these questions, you know, when they come out. Well, thank you for that, you know. So I will say to you, first of all, I'll take the latter part of your questioning. I have not been engaged with elected officials around the DLT being a part of the open meeting law, but that doesn't mean that others in the agency have not been doing that. The spirit for me about these DLT meetings, it is this. I mean, PEP meetings are open. I mean, it's not written that they're, unless Mr. Shepard or others or Deb, you can correct me, but I don't believe that it's written anywhere that PEP meetings are open meetings. I mean, it's implied. I would say that for district leadership team meetings, as far as I feel and I'm concerned, that it is important for district leadership teams to help parents and communities, those that are concerned, to be part of the action and the ebb and flow. And they can always utilize certain things like going into executive session for things that may be critically important, private. But again, I'm part of a machinery, and that is always important that I move in lockstep or in consonance with what is expected. I will tell you that we continue to look at this. I've had these conversations with Deputy Chancellor Austin, but we have not arrived. I cannot give you a definitive response today, but I do acknowledge that the space in the DLT does provide more entry into understanding communities, being able to put in a position to assist, and it affords public more opportunity to be part of the action.
Thank you. Leonard, you also have your hand raised.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Conyers. Unfortunately, your presence here has given me another reason to be upset with the DOE. I'd like to know where they've kept you hidden. I think I'm just not understanding why this is the first time you're here. I'm not understanding why we haven't heard from you before. I think, and I want to just let you know that I just want to echo what I've heard from people in my district, that you are a fantastic administrator, and welcome to your new position. And I just want to say we're here to support you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry that you're upset with the DOE, but you know, out of those emotions, sometimes also when we meet the needs and the conditions, we then begin to sublimate that feeling into something that is probably more happy and joyful. So that's my endeavor, that we move toward making, we won't make everyone happy, but we move toward making the majority of all the people in this in our universe happy. And I have been in witness protection myself. No one has prevented me from coming to these meetings. I have a particular role to play, and I think that I did join today. I've this position I started in July 1, but at the same time I had and continue to have responsibilities that that they are undeniably pulling at me as it relates to ensuring that your students, our students, are being given what they need in schools, that teachers are being given what they need in order to do the work. So forgive me for not coming sooner, but please assure yourselves that where I am needed, I will, when I'm needed, I will respond and come again.
Thank you. Lourdes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, for allowing me to speak. Good morning, Mr. First Deputy Chancellor, Mr. Conyers. Very, very, very excited to have you here this morning today with us, speaking to us and being straightforward. I like that.
Derecho.
One of the questions in regards while we were talking, you talking very eloquently about SOT, DLTs, and so on and so forth. One question that I have asked several times: SOTs, who holds SOTs responsible, or what's the word that I'm looking for here? Yeah, responsible for doing the work that's supposed to be done in collaboration with parents, as far as, working in the SCP, making sure that everything, all bylaws, everything is in place, that attendance is actually happening, that meetings are actually happening. And the reason why I'm asking this is because I've heard from a lot of parents who are very disappointed, who are not looking to sign SCP sheets because they have not yet worked on the SCPs for the schools, or have not seen the document for that matter, but just whatever is on the iPortal. They have not had access to make comments on it, and so on and so forth. Their meetings have not been around the protocols and requirements that are supposed to be handled at SLT. So who holds schools responsible for those works to actually happening, and how is it being tracked?
Good question. First of all, like with every other thing that we want to promote in adult behavior, and where we have independence in doing the work, we want the schools to hold themselves responsible first at that level. Secondarily, we have the superintendent. The superintendent's office should be, when I was both a community superintendent or a high school superintendent, I certainly I had members of my team that were connected to. I read the CEPs of the schools that I had. I knew their goals. I made certain that if there were any issues around operations within, like the parents being involved or anything like that, that I would attend to that as a superintendent or my designee. We also have, as a part of this accountability thread, the FACE office, in terms of not enforcement, but in terms of providing support. So accountability for me is also around recognizing where the issues are, providing support. That creates the accountability that then gets the particular entity to operate in the way that is acceptable. But the fact of the matter is, the superintendent should be the central most point in terms of helping schools to operationalize in an appropriate way vis-a-vis the SLT. One of the things that I want to do, I'm making notes if you see me looking away, I want to probably meet with a DC Austin we meet often, but just as one of these topics to see if we can have what I'm going to call, and I'm going to say it in a way that just to be humorous, a snitch line. But it's not really a snitch line. It is something so that we can become more informed. I'd like to be able to understand where, assuming that you understand that everything that comes through on this information line probably will not be true because, you know, human nature, but certainly something for us to begin to cull our data and our information, because if a trend or a pattern is emerging, then it also tells us something that we need to do differently and better. So Adrian, just be on the lookout for me, because I think we need to, I'm calling it informally the snitch line, but we won't promote it as that. And I hope that you understand that this will be a way of trying to understand where there are concerns, which will then probably go to retraining or actual first time training, because we have SLT training, but you and I know that the remuneration piece oftentimes is the driver for having that training, or the remuneration piece is the piece for having these meetings, so that $300. And I'm not saying who, I mean in general. So let's be real, I understand. So we need to, I'm more about localizing the issue, finding where the problems are, working with the personnel within that area, that region, that district, to lift up and try to ameliorate. But thank you for that, Ms. Lourdes.
Thank you. Thank you very much and I look forward to seeing you here more often. Look forward to working with you sometime in the future.
Thank you. Remember, I'm in witness protection.
Shirley, go ahead. We only have 3 more minutes here, but Shirley should be able to ask the question. Hopefully we get a second one. Yeah.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First Deputy Chancellor Conyers. Since you brought it up, this has been we want to discuss about what is your vision, or what do you think needs to be enhanced or improved for remote learning?
Oh, that's a rabbit hole. But let me just, in all sincerity, I'm convinced that in terms of remote learning, we still haven't figured out the correct formula, not a formula, but the correct number of minutes for students to be on screen. And that's just one thing. The academic supports provided for students that are not in our midst, and sometimes getting them to get the support that they need so that they are not stopped. Now, I remember my days of taking geometry. In addition to having a crush on my teacher, I needed help. Now, if I couldn't get the help, it would often stop me right in my tracks so that I couldn't progress further. So I think with the academic support, I think just basic things, we keep talking about social emotional wellness, but there also needs to be some time for social activity. So I'm a 6th grader in a new middle school. I don't know anybody. I have no clue. I articulated from my elementary school, I'm in 6th grade. I think that we need to have more time for the social connectivity. I think that's also for that freshman in high school, 9th grader, first time. As a 9th grader, for me in high school, it was overwhelming. So that's part of it. I think that we need to ensure, now there's a lot of good stuff going on out there, but I'm talking about, I feel we're only as good as the weakest link. So if you hear me speaking about these things, I want this to be ubiquitous. I want all schools to have the benefit of a rich remote learning experience. I think that we don't do enough of what I will call a parent walk. Being a principal also involves you being a salesperson. So if I were still a principal, I would want to bring in not just the PTA president or the executive board, but I would want to bring in, assuming we have all the correct protections, meaning the media consent form also means that you know, like I'm in witness protection, but it's all right for the students to be seen because the parents have consented to photographs or videos. So you have the opportunities for parents to understand and see the work in action. One of the things that we do less of and need to do more of is be like Missouri, the show me state. Show me. Then it lowers the affective filter. It also gives me more of the ability to join you, to join you. Right now, I'm just cracking you up, right? District 4, Rashida. I see her, she's smiling. So I just think that we need to do more. There's so many other things that we can do. One of the things that I do want to say to you is I don't want you to feel that we're not doing things. I don't want you to feel that we're not trying, that we're not cognizant of the fact that we need to do better, because we are. Certainly in my division, that is an everyday occurrence. I'm always talking about identifying where we have gaps or weakened areas and how to improve and fortify. But there are lots of things. And I think that the remote learning experience touches all constituencies. What can we do for parents? Hi, Vanessa. What can we do for parents to ensure that they're not pulling their hair out as it relates to now, I'm running around and I don't remember how to do the distributive property in mathematics. So we need to have these kinds of supports, right? I am fully aware. Now, is it happening in pockets? Absolutely. But a pocket is a pocket. A pouch is a pouch. I want the whole sack. I want the whole universe. And that's when we know that we're doing our very best. And with that, I'll yield. I always want to say that, Vanessa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
We look forward having you here back. Maybe we're gonna call you to address one particular issue in the future.
Sure. I will say this to you, to the new Queens representative, because I know Deb and Celia Green will probably be looking for me if I don't. We are looking to have a borough level partner. This is something from like a year ago. We want to pilot this borough level partnership for high school where we're not creating another DLT. That's not what we're doing, but we're creating a forum where we and Nancy with Northrop where we will be able to have superintendents come together with parent leaders and other members of our agency to just talk about things. Right now, we're in the midst of considering the return of high school students to in person, the blended model. But I know that my colleague Adrian is already on assembling some parents to hear your voices, because she and I agree, we don't know it all at DOE. So let's not even feign as if we have all the answers and we don't need to come outside to you. We want to hear student voices. I mean, students are the ones being impacted. So those are the things and I just wanted to get that in there because I know that I've been promising Deb and others for some comeback on that. I do have a draft sketched up, Deb and Celia, that I will send to you for consideration, and then we're going to move forward with that pilot first in Queens, just so that we can learn some things, and then we're going to move out from there. And thank you, Marco.
No, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again.
Right.
Thank
so
you.
I'm going to take leave if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Look at Vanessa saying yes. This is not the pep, Vanessa.
Well, actually,
well, I was going to say, we're speaking, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, get out of your way is what you're saying. I got you.
That it's okay that you don't need to listen to us.
No. You know what? I'm sorry. I do have another meeting. It's always my pleasure to be with you. And those of you, I want to thank all the PEP members also for just being courageous and doing the work that you do in those hours. And God be with you all. Take care.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, and thank you for introducing the next item on our agenda, which is we have 4 members of the PEP here to kind of give us an outline of what the PEP is all about and what your role and responsibility, what your experience and everything. Vanessa, take it away, or whatever way you guys organize yourself.
We are taking this as a very informal process for all of us. But we will introduce ourselves first in case nobody knows who we are. So again, I'm Vanessa Liang, she, her, hers. I am chair of the PEP, and I've been on the PEP since January 2014. Whew. I'll leave it at that. I'll turn it over to my fellow panel member, Thomas Shepard. I see him on my screen right now.
Hi, thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Marco, for inviting me. So I'm Tom Shepard. I am the CEC President's appointee to the panel, the first CEC President's appointee to the panel. So thank you for inviting me into the space. And I know many of you. Some of you I still don't know, and look forward to meeting you and having a robust conversation with you. And to just let you know that although my title says CEC President's appointee, that I step into every one of these spaces fully prepared and to represent all the parents of 1.1 million kids in this city. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deb Dillingham, and I'm the Queensborough President appointee to the PEP, and I do represent the global views of Queens at our meetings. But as a member of the PEP, I work behind the scenes to work on policies and for all the students in New York City. I've been on the PEP since February 2014, and we've seen a lot of change on the panel. I look forward to hearing your questions today.
And I'm Michael Kraft. I'm the Manhattan Borough President appointee. I've been on for about, I guess, 4 or 5 years. And besides the functions that the other people have talked about, I do try to work through the Borough President's office, especially when there are specific school decisions that have to be made or schools that are affected. And I try to make sure, among other things, that there's enough resources brought to bear to help represent those schools in a positive way, if possible. But I also work on a range of other policy topics as well.
So I was going to just start off because I think one of the things I would like to share is, for those who don't know me, I'm currently co-executive director of the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families. So prior to being appointed to the PEP, I was the public advocate Bill de Blasio's appointee to the Citywide Council for English Language Learners. And previously, when I was at CACF, I had worked a lot on their education policy platform and building out student leadership for a voice in policy in policy change. But I would say that, being on the other side as an advocate during the Bloomberg years, and the PEP was a very different entity. And I think my first time stepping into the PEP role, I don't think the transition period with folks who've been working in DOE for some time, or the holdovers from the Bloomberg area, really understood what we were expecting. And I would say that I didn't probably know what to expect at times. And feeling that one of the early votes on a co-location where PEP members requested additional information and feedback on the impact, where we did not get it, resulted in my voting as an abstention, thinking I didn't vote no. I voted to abstain, but basically got called into the principal's office and had to sit down with the mayor and be like, what happened there? And I was like, we didn't get the information we needed to make like an informed decision. So we didn't feel comfortable voting for that. There was a very clear message that was then sent, and I think it's still a work in progress, but that there was a different message around like, you know, you need to at least answer questions that are coming up. And I think there's still a lot. The system is big. And a lot of oftentimes difficult decisions, but I think there is, from what I understood or what I perceived under the Bloomberg PEP, it's a different, at least, expectation that the DOE is prepared that we will ask for information and ask for additional briefings. I think we could still do better, but it's definitely different than when we first came on.
Just because, just 1 second, Deb, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Don't forget the fact that while we have many members, CPAC members here, there is also YouTube members. We might not even know what the PEP is.
Oh.
So just if you can like take it back one step and just give us that very basic information, and then.
Tom, you worked on our bylaws. Do you want to give the?
Yeah, thanks. So, so for everybody that doesn't know, the Panel for Educational Policy is really a fancy way of saying the New York City School Board, and I make that distinction, and I'm clear. You know, I want you to understand that because the way that this system is set up, it's set up so that and you've heard the term, used a lot, mayoral control and these sorts of things, but I really want you to understand exactly what that means in this context. What it means is that the mayor appoints the majority of the members of the New York City School Board, right? And I say that so that we all understand, right, that for us as members, right, and I think for, a lot of you I've had conversations with, and a lot of you I've seen in the spaces when we're, discussing issues and so on. Like, I really want you to understand that, all right, no, you know what? I'm actually going to stop there, because I think that, Mark, the question you asked Marco was to explain what the panel is, right? And the panel is, right, by state law, the New York City School Board. So I'm going to stop there. And I think the best way to kind of move forward is, if folks have questions about sort of our role as members, and like, how this all plays out, I'd be more than happy. Vanessa, I'm sure Deb and Michael would also be more than happy to jump in and answer questions you have.
I will just, Michael, do you want to go, or Deb?
No, I just want to just sort of expand on what Tom just said, because basically what happens with the PEP is almost like two separate things. One is a formal process where the DOE submits formal items for us to vote and approve on, and then we will go through whatever diligence we can to make a decision on those. But then there's a whole other area which has gotten more important as time goes by, which is seeing where there are gaps in how things are being done, and we in effect become informal advocates for making more happen. And that's all I had to say for the moment.
Can I just add to that? Just because I see Marie's asked a question about roles and responsibilities. So sort of on the surface, we approve proposals for school closures, significant changes in school utilization, phase outs, grade reconfigurations, recitings, co-locations. We approve the chancellor's regs. You often see us approving the updating of regs. We look at the capital plan. I may have forgotten a few things. But what Michael said about the role of advocacy, and that's what you don't see. And really, we've sort of been a little bit slowed down because of COVID, because we were actually in the schools a lot. So when these proposals came to us, we actually as groups would go into the schools to assess what's going on. And that's where some of our advocacy role is seen, and we can make changes that never appear on the agenda of our meeting, such as making lots of school improvements and also calling upon schools to really service their communities in so many ways: academic, environment, physical surroundings. And as a group, we've been able to do that. I think also that what Vanessa was saying at the beginning about the role of the PEP is we're also challenged as a group. And we work really hard to be heard by the DOE. And we have more luck in some areas than others, but we are working on it because we know we are your voice. And so I would say in the last couple of years, collectively, we've been working on change ourselves.
And actually, I'm sorry. And actually, I just want to respond to a question about, do we meet with them virtually? And my answer is yes. You know, for Manhattan, then especially when there are schools that are starting to appear on the agenda for the PEP. And this happened actually last year with a small school in District 1, Marta Valle. Spent a lot of time with members of that community talking about the transition they were going through. It's all virtual. And I expect my virtual conversations to pick up in the next month or so with other schools.
So I was just going to add that the other thing is our fiduciary responsibility, so that, you know, Deb mentioned the budget, but also, of course, the contracts. And, you know, as DOE, there's a lot of things that need to get contracted out for. I think I also want to underscore, at the end of the day, we are in a mayoral control system. So that, at the end of the day, is what we live in. It is up for renewal. I'll just leave it at that. But I'm just saying that mayoral control means, in some ways, when there's some wonderful things that people can agree on, like UPK and universal breakfast and lunch, things happen really quickly under mayoral control. Other things may be harder to, because at the end of the day, it's the idea is that one person, you can hold this one person accountable, and that one person holds a lot of power.
Yeah, so this is a call. This is
actually, if
your voice is heard.
If I could add something, so the deal here is this, right? If you look at the state law, right? So state education law, and we refer to that a lot when like we've been really having a conversation around like bylaws and our rules and like how these things work, right? When you look at state law defines what our role is, right? And what our powers are and duties are, right? And the state law says there's a whole list, but it breaks down in two ways. One, right? Our role is to advise the chancellor on policies relating to the welfare of the school system. So that's one part. And then another part of the state law says that our role and responsibility is to advise the chancellor, and approve policies that directly relate to student achievement and academic performance, right? So that's the other part. And then there's like a third part that Vanessa just spoke to around approving contracts, right? So those are like the big three, right? So, you know, the question was asked, like, what's our role? Like, what do we do? And that is what our role is as defined by the law. So I'm starting there because we do have a conversation about what the limits to that is, right? So what are the policies and things that we can advise and vote on, right? Versus the things we cannot. And it is a complicated process, and we are constantly trying to, you know, get clarity on that so that we all understand like the extent to that. But, you know, to answer the question directly, that's our role in this whole process.
Cool. So let's if you guys would like, let's open it up maybe to a few questions. I actually have a question for, since you, Vanessa, brought it up and you guys talked about it. So how do you envision your role should not be governed by manual control?
Well, I'm going to answer that.
Woo-hoo. Go ahead, Deb.
Woohoo! You know, there are often standards that are announced to the public. And, you know, if you read our powers and duties, we should be approving those. But to me, that really means that we're in the discussion of those standards before they hit the streets. And honestly, there are often things announced that we have never discussed. So I think the role should be more interactive and more really of an advisor role than we currently have. And that being that we would take all the voices into consideration from our boroughs and our various constituencies before we make those changes and standards. And we don't have the power often. So when you see things in the news and you think the PEP has been informed or involved, we often haven't been. So if we had the more of a potential to really act as what I consider a governing board, we could really affect more change.
Anybody care to add? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to say this from my position, right? Because, you know, I have the distinction in this space of two things. One, as you know, as small as the pool was, right? Like I was elected by people, right? Like I wasn't appointed by an individual, right? So the mayor didn't appoint me, like a borough president didn't appoint me, right? 32 CEC presidents elected me to be in this spot, right? So that's one. And the second is that because every other member except for me serves at the pleasure of the mayor or borough president, right? It can create all sorts of problems that I don't have, right? Because state law puts me in this position, or CEC presidents that elect me to serve in this position do so for a term of 2 years, right? So in some ways, I'm actually the most free, right? So I could walk into a space and say and vote exactly the way that parents want me to and not have anything to worry about, right? And I think if we're going to talk about potential changes to a system, right? I would love to see a system where all of our members, once appointed, serve for a term, right? And have the ability to be able to vote in a way that the population or the majority of the people of the city of New York desire, right? Without fear or without like being placed in a position to have to worry about whether or not this is going to be their last vote on something. I think it will create, I'll say this and then I'll pause, right?
Yeah.
I think that what it creates is a system that is more responsive, right, to like CPAC, to our CECs, to our parents, to our families, and to our communities.
Just, we have 5 more minutes with you guys. I see 2 hands raised. I'm sure there might be more that are gonna be raising up. So Leonard, if you wanna go.
Sure, thank you. I want to thank all the PEP members for being here today. I know you had a pretty contentious January 27th meeting, particularly around the issue of the G&T contract. I just wanted to use that as a segue and just say that I recognize that a number of PEP members or some PEP members have social media profiles. And I just wanted to say that I've read some of these social media profiles. I've read the posts, I've read tweets, and I just want to express that there's a difference in my mind between being provocative and challenging. And I think in some respects, some of the social media posts of some of the people on PEP have crossed the line into being insensitive and offensive, particularly when focusing on issues of race. I know that there's a lot of division out there, and I would just ask that as if we're going to have social media profiles, whether we're on PEP or whatever organization we're serving on, we can try to tone down the rhetoric and try to just, again, focus on the things that bring us together. So I just want to point that out because I have noticed it. I've spent more time than I'm willing to admit reading posts that people have put up there that serve in a number of positions. And I just want to say that some of it I think has kind of crossed the line. So I just want to put that out there.
I just want to add a reaction, hopefully, and actually a little bit of an assurance that the PEP internally, I do not believe is as contentious as it is seemed from the outside world looking in. I feel, and I think everyone on the phone feels, that we have deep respect for each other, and we do find ways to talk about these issues in detail. And put the rhetoric, I don't want to say put the rhetoric aside, but try to hear each other and really understand. So I just wanted to add that perspective because yeah, go ahead, Tom.
And with all due respect, right? First of all, I look at things a little different. One, right? Like people's social media is theirs, right? And the second question or the second concern I have is I am not willing to walk around and act like race and ethnicity and all of these things are not, like, they don't matter when our system is built on them. So I'm going to walk into a space and I'm going to call it how I see it. Some people will like it, some people won't. But, it is what it is for me.
I don't, you're talking one that doesn't really do social media at all. But I will say that I really think oftentimes we, as a group, have these really hard conversations. And we can't avoid having really difficult conversations around race, around our histories. But I think that part of it is that, we can and should be finding where there is what I see oftentimes a lot of agreement in a very, very big and diverse school system. That at the end of the day, I think all parents want what's best for their children. And at the end of the day, no child is waking up wanting to fail. And so with that in mind, I think for me, I'm always, as a system this big, have to consciously think about, in a system decision, we need to center what's the impact on those who have been historically marginalized and who are often invisible in these spaces. And all of these are very, I will say, was like very difficult discussions that I feel like sometimes people think we come into these meetings or these PEP meetings and we just make a vote based on what we were told. But I will be honest that we, as a PEP, all of us we have these conversations, and this is how we get to a really more democratic process of bringing various perspectives into that space.
Thank you. One more question. You have time. One more minute. Marisa, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, and thank you panelists for being here. And just really quickly on what CPAC member Leonard said, you know, comments like that are generally the divisive ones, in my opinion, because folks advocating for themselves who are in marginalized groups need to do that advocacy in order to actually achieve democracy and equilibrium and equity in our institutions, and trying to silence or sort of police that sort of communication is inherently divisive. And beyond that, so to segue, my question for the panelists is, you know, we know that institutional racism and systemic inequality is systemic and is embedded in our institutions. So thank you, panelist Shepard, for bringing that up. And my question is, since we know that, and that the systems necessitate the action of the individual and not the opposite, in an ideal system, what would your role look like in order to be able to have an equitable outcome with the different things that are brought to your attention?
Ooh, can I?
This one, Tom. I'm gonna start and then you can go.
Yeah, go ahead, ladies first, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we come from a point, and it's always in my head about, you know, it's about equity and access, but it's not about bringing people down. It's about bringing people up to the highest standard, and how we do that as a group. And it's challenging because, you know, we listened to Donald Conyers this morning talk about how, you know, we're a work in progress in the city, but we tend to focus our attentions on the most marginalized communities, or that's what you're seeing right now, because we have to, because in order to bring those communities up, we have to focus our attention and our dollars there, and we have to overcome racism. And, you know, just internally, we've all done implicit bias training coming in, and that was hard for people listening to the previous conversation. But it became very clear that we have to acknowledge each other, appreciate others, respect each other in order to go forward. But we have to really, in order to go up, we have to spread our branches and ensure that we hit, in our case, every single borough, every single district, every single school within that to come up to a certain standard. And then we grow higher and higher, and the sky's the limit. Tom?
Thanks, Deb. I would add to that. I would add to that, you know, what do I see as, you know, like my role in creating or kind of redeveloping this system or retooling this system in a way to where it's equitable, would be to see more people like me in this space, right? Like when we have a system right now where you have 15 voting members of a space, and 2/3 of them are appointed by an individual, right? And another 5 of them are appointed by 5 other individuals, and you have one person on some level that was duly elected, then you will never really have a system that is equitable, right? So what I would like to see is a system where, you know, parents, the community, you know, our rights holders, like I'm not even calling them stakeholders anymore, they're rights holders. When the people that have a vested interest in our children's education have a seat at the table, like a mandated seat, like your seat is given to you like under state law, and like we all are at the table in an equal way. Like I look at SLTs as a great example, right? Like SLTs are comprised of about half the members being like school staff, and the other half are parents, right? And like they all exist in that space to be able to come to and make decisions together, right? Like, and one side doesn't dominate the other side. And the structure is set up that way. It might play out in sort of practicality a little different, but the structure is set up that way. And what I would like to see is a structure set up that provides more equity in the decision-making process.
Guys, we are at time. Unfortunately, I would love to continue this conversation. We could go on for hours probably, but we need to move on with our agenda. Appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you very much
I
for having
personally
us.
love to hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us.
Great. Have a good day.
All right. All right, you too.
So next on our agenda, I guess Adrienne is, I don't see her. Oh yes, she's here.
Hey, Marco.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Hi, CPAC. Hi to the executive board. Hi to the members. What a great meeting. Just want to start by saying that this was like, I feel like I'm stopping a really interesting conversation. But just kudos to all of you for creating a really, really solid agenda of interesting dynamic speakers this morning. I just want to give a quick overview of what's happening in FACE in the world of family empowerment. There's a lot going on. So I'm excited to share with you all. First, I am happy to announce that the bi-weekly parent leader briefing meetings have resumed. We had our first meeting last Friday, and the new CPAC executive board was able to meet with the CEC presidents that are part of that briefing. It is a really important opportunity to engage in policy discussions, information sharing, just sort of citywide. And so I know I appreciate those meetings. I know the parent leaders that are a part of it appreciate it. And I'm glad that those have started again. Really also excited about Parent University. So we are seeing a lot of success with Parent University. And I just want to celebrate that here. As you all know, it's a course registration and management system where New York City's families can find free trainings on a wide range of topics. And we now have over 268 pre-recorded, on-demand, and live web-based courses. So 268. When we launched in November, I think we had roughly 100, but just, by sheer numbers, we're expanding that weekly. And we have a weekly course now being offered by the Office of Special Education. So every Tuesday, they have a live course for families of students with disabilities on a range of topics every week. So please tune in through Parent University. And then we also have a weekly mindfulness and yoga course that's being offered for parents weekly through Parent University. So please spread the news, share the link out. We obviously want as many parents as possible to know about it, to use it. We are hoping it becomes a one-stop shop learning hub for parents. And just to share with you sort of the vision of the direction of Parent University, our next step is to build an advisory board that includes parents and obviously parent leaders from CPAC. We want that advisory board to oversee the platform and its direction. And we are excited to be building out a for parents by parents section of Parent University so that we can include content that's made by parents as well. So really excited about that. And I think we should have more in the next few weeks just on sort of making those things real. At this point, there are ideas, but they're moving forward. I'm excited to share that FACE is working with parent coordinators and field leadership coordinators in districts 20 and 21 to pilot a new communication system that will help improve and track parent communication in schools. And so just FYI, we're having really good partnership with parent coordinators in districts 20 and 21. And we're really excited about this because I think it's going to give us more insight and a better system for supporting our schools and the parent engagement that's happening there. So we're piloting it in district 20 and 21. So kudos, shout out to 2021 and the parent coordinators there. And then finally, the thing that I think we're all most excited about, certainly it's on the top of my list of important things that is happening right now, which is the 2021 Citywide and Community Education Council election. So the candidate application is open at the moment. And we are really doing a push with parent coordinators and FLCs across the city to increase parent signups for NICSA. So all of the parent coordinators across the city in every district have gotten a training by now from FACE just on details on how to sign parents up and how to become really fluent in the actual platform of NICSA. And they've been really doing the work to drive up parent signups for NICSA. The election team has been holding information sessions on the elections for parents so that parents across the city can learn more about education councils and how to apply. And yesterday, I hope some of you attended this, but we had information sessions with the borough president's offices in Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, which were really successful. So I see Deb there. Thank you, Deb. But thank you. Thank you to all the borough president's offices for, and the staff that's connected with them and the parent engagement folks for making that happen. And we are working with the borough president's offices in Bronx and Manhattan, and hope to have some dates there soon. I will just say before I turn this over that I'm so lucky. I have the smartest, most strategic, hardworking elections team, and they are pulling off what is going to be. I feel like we take it for granted that how large a scale of an election this is. Like the Board of Elections struggles with elections, but if the DOE gets an election of this magnitude off the ground, considering that, you know, we're not the Board of Elections, we're DOE. I don't know, you know, it'll be, in my mind, a pretty impressive feat, and they're doing a phenomenal job already. And so I just want to give a shout out to that elections team because they're doing a great job. And Diana is here, and I think she has some really great news about what we're seeing with the applicants and the candidates that have already signed up to run this year. So if Diana could maybe just jump on and say a few words, that would be great, Marco. I don't know if we've got time for that, but I'd love for her to.
Well, so the next item is going to be CC elections anyway. So.
Oh, good.
Although I don't think Diana was going to be present.
Even though Adrian told you quite a bit about what we're doing, but sure, I can share with you some numbers that I received this morning.
Yes, it's really exciting. Can we talk about the numbers of applicants that are?
Yeah, that's what excites me too. So, so you all received the demo of the application. If you remember, some of you maybe already applied. You will understand. By understanding the application, you'll understand these numbers a little bit better. So there were 2,520 parents who started an application. 592 completed and submitted. So we have in progress 1,928 applicants that began an application and did not yet complete it. Now we tracked to see what happens with the applications that are started and in progress and not yet submitted. So it seems that most parents, which makes perfect sense to me, begin an application and then they stop kind of at 2 points, either at checking NICSA and adding additional like all their DOE students into NICSA. And the second stop point is the statement. So when applicants get to the statement portion, they take a few days in order to think about it, write it, and then they go back to the application, they copy and paste, and then they complete it. So I just for comparison, for you to you know, decide whether or not this is a big number or you know, a small number. The campaign that was the campaign that was most successful from this perspective, from the perspective of number of applicants until now, is 2015, and at that point we received 1,350 applications. So in only a week and a half, I mean, in 2 weeks we almost doubled you know, that number, and that says a lot. It says a lot about your engagement, says a lot about the effort that the family leadership coordinators and parent coordinators have put, and also about the strategy that our team uses. To what Adrian was saying about all the information sessions, and it's true, three borough president presentations yesterday. And by the way, our team is a very small team, but only yesterday we had 15 parent meetings, including the 3 borough president presentations. So we, since October, November, when we began reaching out to parents and to parent coordinators and PTAs, first about NICSA, now about the elections, we had presented to more than 300 separate events, some organized by us, some where we are invited. I want to emphasize, you all should have received from your parent coordinators, but I'll send them to you. But I want to emphasize what Adrian just said. During the application period, we're having daily info sessions. What does that mean? We are in all languages, let me just say in all languages, and for the most part, without interpretation. So by parent coordinators or our colleagues who are native speakers. So we are presenting the information that you all know, the PowerPoint that we presented to you with information about eligibility and timeline and the application, and answering questions that parents have. So it's info session / office hours, or however you want to call it, and we are having one every single day for the application period until February 28th. You will, I also want to mention, in addition, that last month and this month also, we want to make sure that we are presenting in whatever way we are allowed to all CECs and to all president's councils in the city. They all received the presentation from us in January. They're all receiving a presentation from us in February. So please, if anyone on our team is reaching out to you, please welcome them into your meeting, and we can do it in as little as 15 minutes, just addressing your audience. Lastly, we already began conversations with some of you about scheduling candidate forums. So please, again, please work with us. We don't have a lot of time. Candidate forums are supposed to begin on, they will begin on March 15, from March 15 until April 30th. We are going to try to schedule them on the date of your regular President's Council's meeting. And of course, we're going to accommodate any sort of requests for exceptions from that. But that's the baseline. That's where we start. So we would appreciate a quick turnaround on that request to schedule. I can also add that through we created a lot of materials you see right now. Some of you are sending us pictures with our posters in pharmacies and grocery stores and delis and on buses and on Link NYC kiosks. So thank you. Please continue sending them to us because we love to see them in all boroughs and neighborhoods. You see that we are pretty active on social media. You have already received letters, especially if you have a Nixa account, and I hope that everyone who's on CPAC has a Nixa account. You received from us letters about the elections, encouraging you to apply. And in addition, because you are all PTAs here, we were asked, and we created a kind of a recording of the PowerPoint presentation that on the elections that we are offering. So it's a PowerPoint with voiceover. So it seems that for some PTAs prefer to take it and either distribute it to their parents, which is absolutely okay, or play it at PTA meetings. If you are interested, let me know. That can be a fun, I think, 10 minutes. Those are the updates. Marco and Jimmy, if you allow me, I will come next month also to present you maybe a little bit more on the candidate forums. And I think that by then probably a final report on how many applicants we receive. And if you allow me just one slight correction. So 592 are the number of applicants, as I said, so parents who applied. The total number of applications, I'm not correcting myself, but I forgot to tell you what is the number of applications. The number of applications, 781. That simply means that most parents actually who applied qualified to run for more than one council. And many chose to do so, 781. Thank you so much for giving me time on the agenda, Marco and Jimmy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adrian.
Yes.
So
I'm here.
Yeah. So that was it for what you wanted to communicate, right?
Yes, and I see I see Lourdes in the chat saying, you know, what about asking DC Austin comments? I just wanted to make sure that Lourdes gave you guys an update, but also I'm happy to take any questions, and I can stay. And then you guys know me, I stay after the chancellor speaks if you want to hold for questions as well, just in case there are parents that want to ask me questions.
So Lourdes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair. The question again to Deputy Chancellor Austin. Thank you. Good morning to you. I'm a little interested in the parent advisory that you're talking about. This is the second time I hear it. I'd like to know what the roles and responsibility and the difference between that council and this council.
Good question. When you say parent advisory, please excuse my puppy. We're talking about the meetings on Fridays that we're continuing. Is that
no, the one that you just spoke about creating?
For Parent University, the advisory board for Parent University?
I don't know because it hasn't been very clear. So that's why I'm trying to find out what the difference in that advisory that you're speaking about for the second time.
Yes.
It is. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lourdes. I just wanted to fully understand your question. So for Parent University, we want to have a group of stakeholders to make sure that this becomes an agency asset that's successful over time. So we don't want this to be like a fad, but we want it to be a long-term successful platform. And so I'm thinking of having parent leaders as a part of the advisory. I'm thinking of people who are executive superintendents and principals, and like having a really diverse group of people who will then sort of meet, kind of like a not-for-profit has an advisory board that meets on a monthly basis to go through numbers and projections and all those sorts of analytics and then vision, that we do something similar for Parent University. So, having a really diverse board that then meets monthly to look at, how many parents have taken courses, how many completed courses, how many new courses were added, what kinds of courses are parents, saying that they're interested in, and then can work and develop partnerships to make sure that there's a continual sort of building of courses that are meeting the needs of parents. So that's the vision for a Parent University. The first sort of hurdle was just getting it up and running and launching. And now we're thinking through, like, how do we, for legacy work, how do we make sure that this is really successful over the long term? And how do we bring other stakeholders in to determine the direction?
So in the courses, are parents, okay, I took the course in regards to the SLTs and DLTs, and I took it with my SLT, and then I went on again and Parent U, and I took it as well. But there was no direct link to like receiving some sort of like a certificate of something of completion to that particular video. Is that mostly for all or just a few? Because that will be a good way for parents, a good way of accountability for schools and parents that have taken that particular training.
Yep. You should be able to print out a certificate for every course. And so I think maybe it might be worthwhile. There's a tutorial that Laura has. It's actually like its own course on Parent University, just on how to use the platform. So there is this, like, it's maybe a 10-minute video, but just like how to, but you can download a certificate for completion for every course that you complete. So it's not just a few, it's all of them. And then, just because I didn't have enough time, one of the things I'm really excited about, I've had one conversation with HRA. I've spoken to you about this before, but the idea of looking at how do we get the work that parents are doing as parents to count towards the work requirement for the receipt of public assistance. I've also been in conversation with them around, there is an education sort of a way to satisfy your requirement through education and coursework. And so we've also started to talk to them about how to get DOE through Parent University, like on their list of approved providers of education. So, which then links back to like the certificate and really needing to have a good system for tracking and for parents to be able to say, like, I've completed the course and here's the certificate, so that we can really move that forward. But you should be able to do it. And I will talk to Lourdes, just to connect with you personally so that you know how to do that. But there is a video out there on Parent University to help navigate the.
Great. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. I actually now would like kind of officially move to the CC part, election part, because there were some specific issues that we knew some parents were having, and we were hoping to be able to solve. Parents that were having problems either logging in and applying for a seat. I know Andrea pointed out, Andrea, if you want to just tell us a little bit what you were hearing from your parents.
Yeah, hi Marco, hi everyone. At the time, some applicants were having trouble logging in, but since then I have gotten clarification from Cherie on a previous meeting, and also from Miss Claudette Agard, that situation was fixed now.
Okay.
About logging in, something about the coding of the parent, like you have to have a code 1, which means the child resides with you in order to log into the NICSA account, so you could try to apply, put in for the application or to apply for the NICSA account. If you have a code 2, I believe that means the child does not live with you, or maybe you have a separate NICSA account, or there's some mix up with the other parents' email or phone number and things of that nature, and parents couldn't, try to run for CEC. They couldn't put in for the application because of those little glitches. But I believe most of those glitches were resolved.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and I can address this like really quickly, Marco. So the glitches were not with the application, but they were with NICSA, right? So regardless of the reason why a parent would log into NICSA, they would still need to be able to, have an account with all the students linked. And just so you know, information from the Blue Card is being entered by the secretary into ATS. And that most of ATS information is then being pulled into NICSA. And that's the information that we use in order to make sure that we verify eligibility of all candidates. And again, making sure that we're really talking about parents who have the right to run, not someone else. And in that sense, we are looking at how school secretaries are coding parents. And there's special codes for mother, special codes for father. And again, like we have a formula in order to make sure that we verify that the person who's applying really is in a parental relationship with the parent. Yes, and I want to tell everyone that I just put in a link in the chat, but I will make sure first that everyone can actually access it. So I'll check the access. But it's a guide. It's a very simple guide on how to open an NICSA account. And to the code question, I want you to know that your parent coordinator can just link your children. You do not necessarily, you can ask for the code in order for you to link your own children, or for anyone who has problems or no time or accessibility issues, just a phone call to the parent coordinator, and they can verify that you are the parent, and then they can link the students for you. Anyone who's contacting us, I will write again, elections 2021 at schools.nyc.gov. We are very prompt in responding to all the emails that we receive here. And we certainly are facilitating conversations with the schools in order to make sure that everyone who wants to apply can apply.
Just so you know, unrelated, but the SharePoint New York City DOE doesn't work for anybody except people that have signed in with a New York City DOE account. So it's not really a document that can be shared with parents.
Yeah.
Right? So
I said that
that is an ongoing issue with documents you guys share. It's better if you figure out some other way to share documents, because
we have figured it out. We can put this on a Google. So we'll make sure that this, Diana, we'll work with Shona and make sure that this becomes a Google document that we can send in the end of week wrap up. I think we've seen this before in the end of week.
We already did. It's just that right now I just placed it there. I just placed there whatever I found as I was talking, but as I said, I need to check access. Yes.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Okay. Just okay. I see Rashida and then Cecilia with questions. You can go ahead until the chancellor arrives because it's time now.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Rashida. Yeah, I guess this message kind of really was for Conyers. Adrian, I'm so sorry. I know this doesn't really fall under your umbrella, but I needed to mention it because it's something that my parents continuously are bringing up. It's like an odd position that we're all in during this pandemic, right? But when we as parents are asked to trust the schools and send our children in, and we don't we just do what we have to do. Whatever's best for our children, or we might not even have a choice. We have to send them in. It was recommended in the beginning of the school year. It was recommended, but not mandated, that parents from the SLT could or should enter the building as a team, like a walkthrough to check out the school and the space, you know, the facility and the conditions. So many parents were not granted that opportunity, being told that it just wasn't mandated. Like they don't have to let them in. We understand the safety like issues around it, but fast forward to today, parents would still like to do a walkthrough, like continuously sending our children in the building and having no idea what it looks like inside, like the layout, the space, the window ventilation, heaters, filters, fans, etc. Like we just don't know. And as SLT members, right? I'm not even going to the PA, PTA, or general parent body. As SLT members, they really want support from Central to encourage, you know, the schools, the principals to make this happen. Did you hear Mr. Kanye say he was going to start that snitch line? Let's get that started, because we have a list of schools who are not, they just don't want the parents to enter the building. And, you know, in some cases, I think I might understand, but not really.
Yeah.
So I put that here in space. Thank you.
I so wish you would have addressed this.
I know, Adrian. I love you. I'm so sorry. I'll make sure he gets this message. You don't even have to answer because it's not under your umbrella, but I appreciate everything you do with FACE.
But I will say I have had conversations with Donald about school visits. And so we're putting together sort of a guideline document on school visits for PA, PTAs, and it's going to apply to SLTs, and it's going to apply to CECs as well, because we've gotten a lot of inquiries from CEC members who want to do visits. And, you know, where I think the conversation has been thus far is really around virtual visits. Just, you know, want to be super transparent around what the comfort level is, just because introducing a new person, look, we've got testing protocols. Every staff member is subject to the testing protocol, signs a consent form, you know, is potentially tested, every student. And the idea around having that closed universe is having some predictability and like ensuring that we are really being mindful and cautious around community spread. And so the idea of introducing additional adults into the building where thereby you don't know, you know, like if that person ends up, you know, God forbid, contracting COVID, and then would that information even like, you know, come to the school? And then if it came to the school, where all did that person go to do the contract in terms of a contact tracing investigation? And then do you have to shut down how many classrooms because the person was in those classrooms? It becomes complicated. And so that's where some of, you know, why the conversation is going towards like, you know, like virtual visits. And there are a lot of schools that are doing this well, and a lot of districts that have been doing this well. I know District 7 is an example of a district. I think you can see a virtual tour of every school in District 7 if you go to their district website. But this isn't just about stock footage and like a, you know, like a principal taking it's also about like live virtual visits. So we're starting to think through, like, short of an actual in-person visit, what are some of the things that we can think through? And then separately and apart from that, we're starting to have conversations around high school graduation. I know I've heard from some of the members of CPAC around, like, we want to start organizing. We want our kids to have a really, you know, like a meaningful high school graduation experience. And it takes parents to do that. You know, like, schools can't do that by themselves. They really need parents who do a lot of the legwork in organizing that stuff. So we're having conversations about that now. And I'm actually going to send you guys an email, the executive board, an email, just to start to think through, like, can we get some working groups where you guys sort of take a position and make some recommendations that then we can leverage in those I can leverage in those conversations. But I thank you for the question, because it is coming up, and I know people feel really strongly about it. Oh, I see Randy. Elementary and middle school. I know we don't want to forget about their graduations, the young children either. So yes, so we're talking about it. We haven't gotten anything finalized yet, so now is sort of the time to really make sure your voices are included.
Thank you, Adrian. And I see the Chancellor joined us, so I will give the floor to the Chancellor.
Thank you, Marco and Jimmy, members of the CPAC. It's good to see you. Randy, it's good to see you again. We had a town hall last night. So first, let me start by congratulating the executive board on their newly elected positions. Congratulations. I do look forward to working collaboratively and closely with you as we move forward. And while there are many things that are different this school year, I think we're all trying to do the best we can. So I appreciate your input, and I like that. I like the title that Donald gave, the snitch line. I like that. I think that's got some legs on it. But what I'm not kidding about is it's just unacceptable if schools are not including parents. And Donald and I have had several conversations about this. I will continue to have conversations with him, and I know that he's very committed to this as well. So first of all, I'm sorry if that's not happening, but we'll make sure that we get better at that as well. And then I think Adrian very, very articulately described what the challenges are of school visits and why we're so concerned about making sure that we have a protocol, and if we can do it virtually, why that's important. So Adrian, thank you for that. So let me just give a couple of updates, then I'll take some questions. I have a hard stop at noon because I'm meeting with the president of Apple to continue to push them to get us some more devices in a timely manner. So I apologize, I'm gonna add that hard stop. So middle school applications, they're open until Friday, February 23rd. And this year, there's some significant changes. As you know, we announced the removal of academic screens and auditions and other assessments for this year's middle school admissions process. But especially in a year like this, when COVID-19 has really laid bare inequities in our system for all to see, it's just untenable to use screens. We just don't have the data. We don't have the grades. We don't have the attendance. We know that not all students had devices right when we pivoted in March. So it's just highly unfair for all students. So high school admissions, applications for 8th graders and first-time 9th graders opened the week of January 18th. The deadline to apply is February 23rd. Similar to the middle school admissions process changes, we've also made the high school admissions process simpler and we think more equitable for families. First of all, geographic or location-based admissions priorities will be phased out over the next 2 years. So this means that after next year, the location of a student's home cannot solely be the determiner of whether their chances of getting into a certain school are good or not. We think this is going to give all students many more options across the city for high school. Also, district priorities for high school admissions will be permanently eliminated this year, and all other geographic priorities like borough residence requirements are going to be eliminated next year. Screened high school programs can use the following criteria to rank applicants. They can use a combination of the 2018-2019 state test scores, previous year's grades, and other measures that they develop and get approved from the DOE. You can find out any program screening criteria on their My Schools page, and I would encourage folks to really spend time on the My Schools page. We have also hosted a virtual admissions information sessions where we've walked through how to apply to high school, including any changes due to COVID-19, how to build an application for the high school admissions, and more. So families can watch a recording and find much more helpful information at schools.nyc.gov/high. If any students are applying to the Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, they can apply by registering to audition and then submitting the audition materials by March 1st. They're going to be virtual auditions. And this year's high schools that require auditions, including LaGuardia, as I mentioned, these will be taking place virtually. In other exciting middle school news, students in grades 6, 7, and 8 this year who chose blended learning will be returning to in-person learning beginning February 25th. And we know that there are so many students that are eager to get back into the physical classrooms, and we know that we can facilitate this safely in a manner for everyone. In fact, the latest data is that citywide, the citywide infection rate for New York City is about 8%. And the infection rate amongst our schools, based on the hundreds of thousands of tests that we've been doing, is 0.55%. So we can safely say that the safest indoor locations in New York City are our classrooms. So we're really excited middle schools are coming back. We are now hard at work trying to figure out all of the complexities of high schools and how to get high schools back. And the mayor and I have very publicly said that it is our goal to have all grade levels be able to return to in-person learning before the end of this school year. But high schools are just a really complex set of challenges, but we're working on that as now. And then I'm really excited to talk about Parent University. This year has demanded so much of our families, and I want to thank our Deputy Chancellor, Austin, for all the work she and her team have done to stand up Parent University. We're constantly thinking of ways to support families, and I want to briefly mention Parent University offers a catalog of courses, live events, and activities that are designed to help students and help our parents in direct support as caregivers. They are live and on-demand courses and resources from across multiple subject areas and grade bands. They're also available in multiple languages, and we're working on expanding the number of multilingual offerings as well. All families from early childhood to adult education can create a free account and register for workshops. We currently have over 95 topics that include topics like remote learning and supporting students in a remote learning environment, technology, and everything from technology to early education. So you can access all of these courses at parentu.schools.nyc. And then finally, in order to stay informed on COVID-19 developments at your children's school or just other information, we want to encourage families to sign up for a New York City Schools account so that we can contact you via phone, email, or text message. It's really simple to do. Anyone can just reach out to the school's parent coordinator or visit schools.nyc.gov/NYCA to learn more about how to set up the account. It literally takes minutes to set up the account, but you get so much information through that account. And finally, I just want to thank everyone for your service and for your dedication and the volunteer hours that you spend really advocating for our children. So I look forward to our discussion, and thank you for letting me share those brief updates with you. So Marco, Jimmy, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Rashida, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi again, Chancellor. You seem to support the state's request for a waiver for this year's state test, right? But if for some reason the feds don't approve the waiver for New York, will you publicly push back? And please let us know what we can do to help and support and like just bring more awareness to this. Because a lot of us really don't think that it's fair for the state test to proceed this year. But with that also being said, you are in support of like computerized, standardized kind of running assessments, which we know our children need to be assessed, Chancellor. But like as you so eloquently stated, the inequities, right, with the digital divide and the connectivity, and how difficult it is to truly assess across the board for our students when everyone's dealing with different situations. So we cannot spend as much money for like computerized, standardized running assessments and just really try to work with the teachers and the students for overall assessing the way that they can, the best they can in their situation. Yep. I'd like to hear more about that.
Sure. So Rashida, I've already been very vocal publicly about the assessments, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. And should we not get a waiver, I will.
Excuse me, can I jump in, Chancellor? Sure. I got a text because you was asked that question on Saturday at ECC and you were unclear. Well, the New York State took a poll to find out in that field, and it was 80% that wanted it. So they applied to ask for the request, the waiver from the United States Department of Ed, and they were granted it for they were to allow them to cancel the 3rd through the 8th grade ELA and math assessments. So it was granted to us, but they have not made a determination about the June Regents exams and whether or not that would be administered. But as far as we know, the waiver was granted for the 3 through 8 ELA and math assessments not to take place.
Well, Jimmy, hallelujah. That's news to me. I hadn't heard that. So that's great. So I'll follow up with the commissioner as well to get that in writing from them. But that's okay. That is great news. I do know that
they knew we were having CPAC. And in case that question came up, thank you, Rashida. So they said to please announce it so you will get it in writing. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, so that was the answer, I guess, Chancellor.
Yeah, we got it. That's great.
All right.
Rashida, just so you know, though, because there was another part to your question, which is a really important part. I'm glad that we're not doing the summative assessments, the end of year assessments. Those don't make any sense. But what do make sense is for us to have some screeners and formative assessments that teachers can use to gauge where students are. That's the kind of assessment that we are going to be investing in, because it's literally data that teachers will know where are students, how much academic ground have they lost, where are they, so we know where to start to kind of accelerate them. So you'll be hearing more about that. But the summative test, I'm glad to hear we got that. I will tell you this though, I kind of got into a little altercation with some of the civil rights groups because they actually sent a letter to the federal government, the Secretary of Education, advocating for them to reject state applications for waivers. And it was just, they never talked to any of us. And look, I stand with all those civil rights groups, but on this one, they're just plain wrong. So I'm really, really glad to hear that it's been granted.
Yeah. Thank you. Randy, go ahead.
Good morning, Chancellor. Is the DOE going to implement a mental health program or provide training for school staff on the effects COVID has had on our children for when they return to school full-time? And do you know when that's going to be?
Yeah, so we've already been training staff, teachers, and principals on social emotional supports for students in trauma. That's only going to get more and more implemented as we go along. We were in a good space because we started doing this kind of social emotional training well before COVID-19, and that laid a really strong groundwork for us to be able to build upon that. But it's important for CPAC to also know that part of being able to do that at scale is going to require obviously training. It's going to require materials. It's going to require us to stand up a learning management platform so electronically teachers can pull those resources. That all costs money. And the reason I mention that is that the last stimulus package that was approved in Congress, there's over $2 billion that was supposed to specifically come to the children of New York City, $2 billion. The executive, which means the governor, has taken all of that money, all but 100 million of that money, and used it to balance the state's budget. That's what the proposal is. So they're taking money meant to do the exact same things that we're just talking about: social emotional learning, trauma-informed supports, more guidance counselors, more social workers. They've taken that money that's what we're going to use for, and they're balancing the state's budget on the backs of our children. So I'm being very vocal about this. Everywhere I go, I'm talking about this because we cannot allow that to happen. If that stands, then there is going to be very little that we have in our budget to be able to do new things. We're just going to barely be able to keep the lights on and the power running. So we'll get you more information about that, but this is really an area where we're going to need to have a concerted effort to be able to do the kinds of trauma-informed supports that we know we need and that you're referring to as well.
Thank you. Francis, go ahead.
Hi, Chancellor. Hi, everyone, and congrats to the new CPAC board. I have a question. Is there a new
Is there a new date or any date for remote learners to opt back in? And if not, what happens to those children that the parents need to go back to work and their schools are packed? Would they be able to get a variance to go to another school in their district?
Yeah, so there at this point is not another opt-in period. The opt-in period that happened in November is the only one so far. So, and remember that opt-in period ended, and then very quickly we had to go on the pause, the 2-week pause, and then middle schools didn't come back. So any student that opted in during that period will be able to come back on the 25th. Obviously, we're still continuing to follow all of the medical advice. And as the circumstances indicate, our goal is to have another opt-in period, but I don't have a certain date for that because there's just too many variables going on about being able to opt in. Now, for parents students that are in a blended environment and do need some kind of childcare, that's what the learning hubs are. So I would encourage folks to go onto the website, schools.nyc.gov. You can find out more information about learning hubs. You can also work with the parent coordinator at your child's school so that they can connect you with those learning hub options. And there are seats available. So on days that parents are obviously working, but children are in remote, these children can go to these learning hub sites as well.
Thank you. Veronica, go ahead.
Thank you, Marco. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chancellor. You just say that a lot of parents are excited for middle school going back, and you're saying that the classrooms are safe. But into my district, every other week, our schools are closed, and how do we move forward with that? It seems to be a yo-yo for the kids and the family, mentally and socially, because we're in the building this week, and then next week we out for another 3-4 days, and then we back. So what is your plans, seeing that middle school are now coming back and we still having this problem going on?
Yeah, Veronica, I can totally understand why parents feel like this is a yo-yo, and parents and students feel like there's this always constant shift in things that are changing. What I would say is this: if we have to just understand that until we have herd immunity or everybody's vaccinated, the virus is in the community and will continue to be in the community. I think the fact that schools do get closed for 24 hours means that our test and trace program is working. So as you know, we've stood up the situation room. We have health and hospitals that are there. We have the health department. We have DOE. So when there's a reported case of a positive case, we very quickly engage test and trace and health and hospitals to do the investigation as to whether or not there is any prolonged exposure that is going to be problematic. That's why we shut down the building or the classroom for 24 hours. And in some cases, it's a little longer. But again, even though it's kind of a whipsaw, and I understand and I feel the sense of uncertainty for families, it is a good example of how what we put in place is actually working. And we all have to just be very sober with the fact that the virus is in the community. So I or anyone else cannot guarantee that there won't be any positive cases. What we can control is what are we going to do when there is a case? And then how are we going to make sure that we're very quickly reacting to that so that it doesn't spread? And if it already has spread, then we've been able to identify so it doesn't spread further. It's just kind of one of the facts of life that we're living with during this era of COVID. And I'm just praying that we get more supply of vaccine so that more and more people can get vaccinated so that we can really create that immunity out in the community to stop the spread.
And what are your plans for the teachers who do not believe the vaccine? There's conversation that they're not taking it. What are your plans moving forward with those teachers coming back in the building, serving our kids? Thank you.
Yeah, we've actually seen very little pushback on taking the vaccine. In fact, what I hear about every day is more and more teachers want to get vaccinated. There's just not enough vaccine yet. to get vaccinated. So we're working through our human resources department. We're working with the unions as well to really push people to get vaccinated when they're available to get vaccinated. Because of the limited supply of vaccines so far, we are prioritizing all individuals that are in schools working personally with students first. And then obviously we do want to set it up so that teachers that are in remote or have pre-existing conditions also get vaccinated as well. But we're working through the policy implications right now. Once we have that supply that's really unlimited, what our approach is going to be with teachers that have said, nope, I'm just not going to get vaccinated, and they have no medical reason not to get vaccinated. We're working through that right now.
Great. Thank you. Guys, we have 5 more minutes with the chancellor and 3 questions, so keep it quick. Go ahead.
Who? Jackie, hi. Hi, Chancellor, how are you today?
Hi, Dr. Cody, good to see you.
You too, you too. Update on a request to enhance remote learning, how DOE plans to get iPads and access to remote learning to each and every child, especially those unaccounted for attending school because they don't have access to remote learning. What remedial resources will be provided and how is AIS being implemented? This is a loaded question, remotely and in person. And an update on DOE creating an app. As previously shared, the app should include a variety of curriculum, an easier login. Children should be able to click in and have direct access to resources, especially mental health resources, as teens are feeling increasingly isolated. Teachers need better quality technology as MacBooks or even HP, and high school students should have laptops as well. Moreover, how can there be, I know you heard, AP exams given when high schools are closed and many students are not able to do as well remotely? What can we do to help ensure that AP exam is suspended or waived, and teachers do what is needed to assess their students accordingly? I know the AP program did send a letter to the College Board, but I'm unable to locate the link to share. If someone in your camp has a link to share, maybe CPAC can sign on and help write a letter as well. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot to cover there. I'm not sure I'm going to get to all of it, but listen, we do continue to provide resources in terms of technology to students every day. And you know, there's kind of like an urban myth that says there's hundreds, if not thousands, of students who haven't received a device. That's just not true. What we are finding is that there are students whose devices have broken, so we're swapping out those devices. There are students who had a device that might have been their own device, and now they want a device that's newer and faster, so we're getting those into hands of students as well. So we are very squarely in that system now where we're kind of refurbishing and reissuing devices. And so I just want to make sure that folks understand that I have no evidence of somebody that for 11 months now has had no device because we haven't given them a device. That being said, part of why I'm talking to Apple is that we want to have a continuous flow of devices. And that means that we've also started to purchase keyboards for the iPads because we know that in the older grades, students need keyboards to do their longer essays. And I just had a phone call yesterday with College Board. College Board is not going to suspend the AP exams. They're just not going to do it. And they're doing it across the country. So if our students say we're not going to participate in the AP exam, then they're going to be at a disadvantage because, as you know, they score well enough, that's college credits going in. What we have spoken with College Board is how do we make it more equitable in terms of more time, more assistance on the proctoring. And then there was an issue with not being able to use iPads. We are working through that issue with College Board and Apple right now. So we're addressing those challenges as they become available, as they become apparent. The other thing that I would say very quickly is that all of the things that you talked about, which were right on the money, electronic curriculum, a place to keep the electronic curriculum, a place to access the curriculum, a simple way of accessing for students and for teachers, are all part of the work that we're doing right now in preparation for the summer and for the fall. So remote learning, virtual learning, electronic, resources are going to be with us forever now, because we've built a lot of capacity, but we've also seen what the power could be if we can marry those electronic resources with in-person learning. And as we get back to 100% in-person learning, having those resources will only help us to accelerate students that have fallen behind and personalize instruction to a greater degree as well.
Thank you. Cecilia, go ahead.
Thank you, Chancellor.
I'm just going quick, so to use your time.
Good morning, Chancellor.
Good morning.
Women High School Presidents Council. So it's just follow up 2 quick questions. You touched these questions, but one more specifics concerning the social emotional. I have attended different town halls. You talked about it, and you just mentioned that personnel are being trained, but we also receive questions as to the ratio. How many counselors, how many personnel per personnel, how many students, because they want to know the adequacy of how they're being served. So if that's communicated, that would be great. The second part is about the high school reopening. Since we are the Brooklyn High School Presidents Council, of course, we receive tons of questions about that. And obviously, I'm a co-president at a high school, so we receive that question as well. Parents, of course, you know, no one wants the pandemic, and it's really throwing us a curveball, and our students are suffering, families are suffering, being at home and not being able. And with all these different schools opening, especially now that the middle school is opening, they're wondering when are the high school things reopen. And I understand you said there's a plan, you guys working on it, but if that's being communicated, that would be great too. I know you can't say that it's reopening tomorrow or even a date, but at least they know it's being worked on, because right now they receive nothing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. And I understand the frustration, especially at the high school, for high school parents. You know, I think every time the mayor has his press conference and talks about schools, he talks about, we're working on a plan for high schools. Our goal is to have them come back before the end of this school year. I will tell you, of the 10 largest school districts in America, every other large school district has said high schools aren't going to come back this year. So, you know, we're pushing hard on that, but it's just, let me give you an example. So you have students in the middle schools and especially in the elementary schools, we try to keep students in pods, right? In groups. So when God forbid there is a reported positive case, then we know who those students are with all day. It's almost impossible at the high school level to do that, because if you have a student taking a CTE course, they're going to take that CTE course with a group of students. Then they're going to go somewhere else to take their English course based on their level with another group of students. Then they're going to take their math course based on whatever math course they're taking with another group of students, then their science course. So just limiting the movement is just but one of all of those complex issues. Then there's the issue of, okay, both of the vaccines are not indicated for children, but one of them is for 16 years old and up, and the other is for 18 years old and up. And so, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they haven't even said if children are going to be, it's going to be indicated for them. So then if you're bringing high school students back, do you require 16-year-olds to get vaccinated? Or the 18-year-olds who get vaccinated? So we're working through those policy issues as well. Those are just 2 examples of the many examples that make high schools very, very complicated. But we are pushing hard to make that happen. Everybody, thank you,
Chancellor, for the explanation. But if that explanation is being given to our constituents, because we are hearing the frustration, I am actually one of the very few, and people are going to beat me up for that, I'm not advocating for high schools to reopen if it's not ready. And you know, lots of people are saying that their kids are suffering and they have to go back. I'm all for safety, but my point being that if all this is being communicated to the parents, then they realize, although they don't like it, but at least they realize what the factors are. Thank you, Chancellor.
Yeah, we'll figure out. We're not going to put out a press release, but what we will do is we'll make sure that we send something out so that parents understand that. And then, you know, we'll work, and I'll work with Adrian as well. Folks, I'm late to my meeting. I'm sorry, I got to go. I know you're going to continue to meet. Please continue to be safe, and thank you for your questions. Take care.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you. Sorry, Maritza, you didn't get a chance to ask your question. Maybe if you think it's appropriate, we can ask Adrienne, but I think she's here. If you want to ask her your question, Maritza.
Oh, okay, sure. Hi. Good morning. I mean, is it still morning? No, it's afternoon now. Okay, so hello. The question that I wanted to ask was, and sort of pose to everyone who is interested in listening.
It's hard to hear you.
Oh no. Okay, is this better? Hello?
Yeah, it's a little low, but I can hear you.
Okay, let me see really quickly if I can adjust my mic and my settings.
It's probably just a matter of having your mouth closer to the microphone or.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Okay, great. Okay, so hi. So the question that I wanted to ask is, so an observation that I've been making in District 14 and going around to different meetings is that, you know, much like the national sort of tension that's been going on, a lot of folks are sort of tired of inequity. They're tired of you know, racism and systemic and institutional issues that hold our children and families back. And a lot of folks stepped up to the plate to take leadership positions in their respective.
You're getting lazy and move the microphone away again.
Oh, no, sorry. So a lot of folks have been stepping up to take leadership positions in their community. Now, whenever things like this happen, there's always inevitable backlash from people who have previously held a lot of privilege and power, and usually that has a direct marriage to resources. And what I'm witnessing is that when these conversations are happening and this backlash is happening, is that a lot of administrators or leaders will say things like, oh, we have to respect everyone's opinion, you know, everyone's voice matters, and et cetera, et cetera. Which is, you know, frankly, really problematic because, again, it's sort of like saying all lives matter when people are advocating for very marginalized groups. You can't hear me?
You're low, but we can hear you, but you're very low.
Oh no, I don't know what's going on with my computer. I'm so sorry. So I was just wondering, as an institution, as a DOE, what measures can we put in place, or what folks can do to sort of protect people who are advocating, parents and parent leaders who are advocating for our most marginalized families, and the backlash that comes from those who have maintained power, privilege, and status within our schools, from, you know, sort of like these conversations that revolve around equity and democracy, but really it's about maintaining power. So I'm interested in how we can work together toward like actually stabilizing and protecting equity.
Thank you. It's a really great point, really great question. I feel like it's sort of one of those like really philosophical questions, is like, you know, as opposed to something I can easily sort of like answer quickly. We do have an equity, FACE has an equity council that is starting to think through what kinds of policies or protocols or language can we put together within the parent leadership spaces, because this is a space that is regulated. And so, you know, having, for example, a code of conduct that includes an anti-discrimination policy, an anti-sexual harassment policy, those things are pretty tangible things that we could do that would address some of what you're talking about, but not entirely. There is, you know, there's a lot of diversity of opinion about education, about race and education, about, you know, like educational politics, which, you know, sometimes can get very like just expressly partisan. And so how do we, you know, like for DOE, it's very, you know, it's a tricky space to be in, because obviously as government, which we are, we certainly don't want to infringe upon anyone's constitutional right to free speech. And, you know, we want to be respectful of the fact that we have a diverse group of parents, and, you know, there are people who may have unpopular opinions, but they're entitled to have them, and they are not only entitled to have them, but they're entitled to express them in whatever sort of public channels and outlets that they have and they want to use. So it's a I think a tricky space for administrators to be in, where, you know, if you're in a district where it's particularly contentious and you have really diametrically opposed viewpoints being sort of argued out in the public sphere, in social media, or in public meetings. And I think for me anyway, my perspective and my problem solving at this stage has been like, how do we start to shape and have more productive conversations with people with differing perspectives? I do think we have to hear one another. We don't all have to agree. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree. And there's a way to have conversations with people who you disagree with that are still respectful, even when you walk away and say like, you know, I vehemently disagree and am opposed to what this person is suggesting or proposing or what they think. But that's sort of what our democracy is rooted in, is this idea that we can all be really different and diverse and have different opinions and different belief systems, but still work together for, you know, a common good. So I think it's an interesting conversation. I think, you know, the more we talk about it and the more forums we have, I think the closer maybe we come towards like learning how to have productive disagreement and discord. But I do understand why administrators are like not wanting to necessarily take a side, where it's our job to support all voices, all parents, as long as people aren't crossing the line into the territory of like actually discriminating or, you know, actually harassing or actually doing something that is, you know, unacceptable conduct.
Thank you, Adrian. We are actually out of time, but I see one more hand. So let's get this last question answered. Cecilia?
Yes, hi, good morning, Deputy Chancellor. I have two things I want to address. One is about communication. We have suggested when translation is being offered that the slide that says translation is being offered should be in the language that the people are supposed to read, instead of saying we have translation in English. It should be in Russian, it should be in Spanish, or whatever other language that's available. I have attended a lot of meetings, more than I should, and I have seen more of those, but I believe it might be last night, and don't quote me on it. Once again, I saw the translation slide saying it in English. I just want to bring to your attention. And other thing is the end of week wrap up. It was suggested to be sent to all the PCs and then distributed to all the parents. I'm wondering if that's actually done, because I'm not hearing that that's happening. SLT training, we are hearing a lot of questions about that. There was a time I asked for that for Brooklyn High School President's Council, and the answer was FACE is doing it. I have attended those trainings. You and I both know how many people attended those trainings. That's much less than the parent leaders of the whole city. The thing is, it could be a lot of things. It could be people busy, it could be they didn't hear about it. So I believe that if it's being offered in more forums, and if President's Council offered the forum for FACE to conduct it, I don't know why that's not being done. We welcome FACE into our forum anytime. SLT. I found myself sitting in SLTs, and every now and then people are saying, I don't know anything about this, please educate me. That's on a good day, that they're open to knowing. Otherwise, they're arguing. So the thing is, I tried to learn as much as I could all these 20 years that I have been in the system, but I do not think I'm equipped, or I should be the one to educate principals, UFT members, or parents. I'm not the official voice, and they're going to argue with me. And lately, I was just talking to them about remuneration, and they said, that's not true. Who am I to argue with them? That's not true, or it's true, right? That should be the DOE's job. I mentioned it tons and tons of times. I guess I didn't mention it to the right people. I'm hoping that you're the right person. There should be 4 documents that's mandatory on every single SLT table. The bylaws, the budget, the Galaxy budget, I know it's online. The CEP, which is also online. The A65, they're all online, I know. but it should be right there. So anytime anybody need to say, I'm not sure, it's right there. You can refer to it. And I talked to different DOE trainers, personnel, and they all said, oh, that would be a good idea. It's not an idea. It should be mandatory. It should be required. It should be beginning of the year, every single SLT member on a sign-in sheet, sign that they receive it, a copy of it electronically. Okay, it should be available to them. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. I actually remember you bringing up the issue around interpretation and translation previously. And I think what I said then is the same thing I'll say now, which is that makes perfect sense. There should be a slide in the languages where we're offering interpretation that explains that we're offering interpretation and how to access it. So I'm sending the head of our translation and interpretation a quick email. I think our office has done that. I think when FACE, for the most part, when we host our events, that we have our slide interpreted, but I don't know if that's true for every office because I just wouldn't know. But I will send him something just so that he's aware on his end, and we can make sure from that office that where we're, you know, where we're directly involved in interpretation, that we can fix that if it's not happening. So thank you for raising that. The second question around SLTs, one of the things we did this year, and I'll be quick because I know everyone is like, yeah, it's 12:15. One of the things we did this year was we created a really, what we think was a comprehensive SLT video. It was a video where, you know, you saw the UFT, the CSA heads, you saw our first deputy chancellor and myself, you saw Jimmy and Marco make opening statements. And the idea around just like having everybody basically endorse this video was to address what a lot of parent leaders had said previously, which was, you know, like parents would come in and say one thing, and then, you know, the UFT or the CSA or like one of the major stakeholders would say, well, that's not our interpretation. Or so we thought it was really important to get everyone on the same page. And what we asked when we put out that video was that every SLT across the city sort of showed and did like a watch party with the SLT so that everyone was on the same page with roles and responsibilities and sort of how SLTs were supposed to function. So I hope that happened. And I guess the second piece of feedback is, or, you know, just resources that are there. FACE has an entire, like there's a folder of like an old toolkit, but it has all of the sort of resources, best practices, guidance, that, you know, that's on a site, a folder. I'll make sure that I send that around in the end of week wrap up, but we are working to refresh that. And I think within the next couple of weeks, we will be putting out something that's like a refreshed toolkit that just reminds everyone of, here are the best practices that we've highlighted. You know, it's not going to be a lot of new content for those of you that are familiar with the content, but it will be repackaged for folks who need a sort of a refresher and a reminder. And it will give SLT members, parent members, you know, something tangible to bring to the meeting to say, see, this is a best practice. Let's do that. And so I see Cecilia says there's still unanswered questions. And then finally, you know, where we support, right? FACE supports pretty much all parent bodies, but we do so particularly around SLTs in partnership with the First Deputy Chancellor's Office that really owns that portfolio. So there are folks from the First Deputy Chancellor's Office, and I'm sorry, I don't remember. They used to be called CDILs. They're called something else now, which is a really great office title, but I don't remember the title. But those are the people whose responsibility is to really go in and have a touch point with SLTs to do that follow-up training on the video. So I think it would be great. I'll have a conversation, CPAC Executive Board. I don't know if you want to bring those folks in at any point, but if you do, I'm happy to make the connection just because I know they have a new office title and there's new folks who are leading the charge. There's a new Title I, you know, Title I coordinator. So maybe having some of those faces in front of, you know, CPAC membership might be good, and to answer some of these questions and also to hear the feedback. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, the Director of State and Federal Programming. That's the title. Thank you. I sort of lost the new title, but the Director of State and Federal Programming is the title, and those are the folks that should be in every community offering SLT support. So
okay, we can maybe call them on to come maybe the next meeting or something to just present their work and things like that.
Yeah, or if you want me to make the connection, they can even come during my time, and like I'm happy to make the connection. So
that's great. That's great. Yeah, we'll yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Jackie had a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, motion to adjourn. Oh, put representation on PEP, CPAC representation on PEP for the next meeting agenda. And I motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Thank you,
All right.
Adrian. Nice to see you, Deputy Chancellor.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon.